The following is a GoPowercat.com production.
Welcome in here to a special live edition of the Clent Stewart Show. I am Ryan Gilbert. As always, he is Clent Stewart, former Kansas State guard. Joining us today is Jordan Henriquez Roberts. Jordan Henriquez, no Roberts anymore, correct? Just J.O.?
No, Roberts to this day.
Okay. J.O., appreciate you hopping on, man. We're going to have a lot of these guests, former players, hopping on with us in the coming months. Big 12 play is here. J.O. obviously is with Clent. J.O., you're back in Kansas City, man. How's it been back here?
It's been good. I've been here for a month now. Just started working with Shamrock Trading Corporation on the recruiting side. My primary role is to recruit student athletes or just athletes in general to come over on the corporate side. So that's kind of what my first month has been, just the training and very familiar with Kansas City in the past. Obviously, with TBT hosting it here last summer, and just Kansas just being my second home in general. So always had a lot of love for KC. So it's good to be back.
TBT, that's not going anywhere, right? That's the reason you've back to be closer to the TBT team, right? Every summer.
Yeah, we're not going nowhere, man.
There you go. Cool. You're from New York, man. Like growing up, I bet you thought there's no way in heck that you'd end up in Kansas of all places. But when people talk about family, right, Manhattan and this area, right, that really obviously had to have connected to you.
Yeah, it's big time here. Just Kansas in general, whether it's on the Kansas City, Missouri side, Kansas side, the love from our fan base is always there, and it's organic. And it's been that way for the last 15 years. I would probably say I've spent more time in Kansas City after graduating from K-State because I didn't like the 2-hour drive originally coming from the airport going to Manhattan as a student athlete. So, spent a lot of time in KC, as a professional athlete in my off seasons. And then obviously just being retired now the last 7 years, Kansas City, just Kansas in general is really my second home. So I just, always make sure I'm here, whether I'm here for a short amount of time or for a long duration of time. Now I'm here permanently. So, man, it's just great to be back in general and to connect with fans as well.
Is coaching, obviously you're doing that TBT stuff, but are you kind of just focused now on the 9-to-5 life, or is that always going to be maybe a possibility for you?
It'll always be a possibility, but I want to master my role first. This is my first time being on the corporate side. So I want to master what I'm doing first, and then I'll jump into coaching. Have plenty of resources here, especially in Kansas City, with friends that run AAU programs and whatnot. So I know that's not going anywhere, but I just want to focus on what I'm doing first on the corporate side, really lock in, and then gravitate towards the coaching because I can always do both.
Clent, you were on the call on Sunday. How was that? I know you always get good feedback when you're behind the mic, but how was it with your last appearance on ESPN Plus of the year?
Yeah, last one, man. It was really good, really good. Obviously we got the win, which was nice. Thought we could have played better a little bit down the stretch. I'm sure Coach Tang thinks that as well. But it was good experience for me. My second ESPN Plus game, also did a radio game, and looking forward to doing more in the future, because it is something that I enjoy doing. And we talk, all the time, us former athletes talking basketball is easy, and so it's fun, it's exciting. It's something we all enjoy doing.
As the host of this show, if you guys could all make my job easier here, chime in on the comments, share your thoughts, ask these two guys questions. We'd love to get you guys involved. And, we've been talking with Clent over the non-conference. I think everybody knows what, you think, Clent, about this team, and you've shared your thoughts. But J.O., our first time talking to you, just maybe your overall thoughts on the pre-Big 12 slate for the Cats right now.
Yeah, I think, the work that's been put in, between the off season and leading into the season and into the non-conference play, you could tell there's probably been, some guys that weren't there from the beginning in June that are now catching along now, and you've kind of seen that within their last few games. especially building off the Creighton game on the road. Guys are coming along and playing together. I think they have a lot of good confidence going into conference play. Tough opponent, to start off, but it's the reason why you come to the Octagon of Doom. It doesn't matter if you're ranked or unranked. It's going to be a tough environment to play in regardless.
Clent, are you hitting the panic button much with that Monroe game, or was that just the 8 days off between games post Christmas? Maybe guys are peeking ahead a little bit to conference play. Is there any real concern moving forward just off of that 40-minute sample size?
Well, I think you see, some of what the theme has been, and we can score the basketball, right? I mean, we scored 90 plus, or and that's not the issue. It's can we stop anyone? And obviously, I think that's the issue that we're trying to figure out. And when you give up, is 80 plus to Monroe, I mean, that is concerning, right? I mean, whether we can say we're coming off of the break, and then the rust, well, so are they, right? Like they're not playing either. So how do they play so well? As far as what they've done in the past and how they played against us. So that piece is concerning. But what you hope is, with our offense being so far ahead of our defense, it's like if we can figure a few things out defensively, then that can really help us have the kind of Big 12 season that obviously we have aspirations for. But if we can't, then it's going to be tough. I mean, the Big 12 is tough right out the gate against BYU. We know what they can bring, and then then you get your second game, Arizona. I mean, it's just. It's going to be a tough slate right out the gate, and so we're going to have to figure some things out, But one thing I mentioned, Ryan, we went through the what we think our records are going to be for the K-State team in the Big 12 this season, and I said 10-8. I said if we can steal one or two, we might be able to get to 11 or 12 wins. But one thing that's certain is we're going to have the best player on the floor for most of the games that we're in. The thing is, can we defend? Can other guys step up and score the basketball around that? And then can we sneak some wins out? Like Big 12, you got to have a little bit of luck sometimes, and sometimes the ball has to fall the right way, and hopefully we can have some of those. If we can go 1-1 in these first two games, like that'll be huge, right? I mean, two top 10 teams, right? If we go 2-0, I mean, that's almost unheard of, right? Start the Big 12 season against two top 10 teams. So, hopefully we can get one of these two and then move on from there.
Go on the road and steal a couple, and then it doesn't seem crazy at all to think that K-State can, be 500. Couple games above 500 in league play. If you defend that home court, and Bramlage can be a tough place to play, then guys, I mean, to be where Clent said at 10-8, if you haven't seen our piece on GoPowercat, go check it out. All of us gave our record predictions, but if you go steal some on the road and defend Bramlage, you're in a good spot.
No, I mean, that's what it's about, right? I mean, in the Big 12, you have to defend your home. Like, you got to win your home games. You got to win the games that you're supposed to win, especially at home. So what that means is, for sure, all the non-ranked teams at home, like, you got to beat them, right? And then the ones that are ranked, like some of those, just, hey, we got to figure out a way to beat them at home, right? So you talk about your KU, your Texas Tech. I don't think we play Arizona at home. But, those ranked teams, just got to figure out, can we figure out a way to get those at home? And then when you go on the road, those unranked teams are the ones that, like, hey, we got to go steal these games. Like, we got to go win these on the road. And then, of course, the ranked ones, I mean, those are going to be a little bit tougher. But, you never know, man. That's why it's a new season. The non-con doesn't matter anymore, and when you get into conference play, it's like new life. And, hopefully for our guys, we can figure some things out, as far as what did we do well and what do we have to fix as we're heading into Big 12 play.
And to build on that, Clent, I think it's very important, and because we've lived through it, is that winter break. That winter break where there's no school, there's no distractions, it's just basketball. That's where it makes and breaks you at that midpoint. Whether you've been consistent, then you elevate, or you've been inconsistent, and in that time frame of you just being with your guys and being with your coaching staff and just really locking in, that's where whether you'll elevate or you can stay flatline. It's just, it can go either way. So, this winter break for them, and I know they've been in it probably for a couple weeks now, but I feel like it's almost like a month of it, where you're just grinding. And obviously, conference play is in the mix of that now, but, it's just really you and your brothers in the locker room and on that court in between those lines. So as long as they're locked in and consistent every day in practice, we should see them go and beat the ranked teams and sneak one out on the road against a ranked opponent, beating the unranked opponent teams at the crib or on the road. Those are the games that help you get to that 11 or 12th win, based on, us thinking like they can finish 10-8. So you know, they gotta really, you know, stay locked in through this winter break, so that and it'll show Saturday. You know, obviously they just got back a few days ago. You know, going into that ULM game, but this week here alone is just them between the lines. So it'll be very intriguing to see, you know, how, you know, they play against BYU on Saturday. I know our fans are going to show up, you know, and I don't necessarily know if they're coming to show up for us or they're coming to see BYU play. But regardless, the energy is going to be there in Bramlage. So, you know, it should be in our favor. Like, we beat ranked opponent teams in Bramlage. Like, we have a history of it. You know, no matter who the coach has been there, that's just the energy that our fans bring when they come to Bramlage. So, we just got to hope that they come in locked in and got to play 40 minutes of great basketball, because BYU is not a team to be slept on. You've seen them in non-conference against UConn. You know, they're a really good basketball team, and yet alone they're going to have the number 1 draft pick, supposedly, and they're going to come ready to play.
Yeah, potential number 1 draft pick that took an OV here. K-State was among his finalists, but Clent, you mentioned PJ Haggerty, and there's going to be times where Kansas State has the best player on the court, and Haggerty is, I guess, the star of this team, right? And J.O., you were back in Manhattan this summer. You know, K-State put out a video on social media. You were preaching to these guys, be a star in your role. Not everybody can be the star. Your senior year, J.O., you had to take a step back, and I think you saw a reduction in minutes, but to get to a Big 12 title, that's what was required. And so if these guys can all be a star in their role, whether you're coming off the bench playing 5-10 minutes or you're Haggerty, you are the star, things are going to go well if guys buy into that, which they have, because we've seen that with obviously David Castillo and Bashir, and the examples of, you know, guys checking themselves out of games, Castillo wanting to come off the bench, those types of things.
Yeah, no, it's big time, man. When I said that, I hope it sat well with him, because I know in this world of college basketball, like, not only does that, you know, stand no matter where you are in your college career or as a professional like that, you need to be a star in your role. Unless you are the highest paid guy and you're a franchise player, or, you know, I don't even know what you call it in college basketball anymore, because everybody's getting paid. But, you know, that quote I made to them, I meant it, and I hope it sits with them, you know. And you do see some of those guys being consistent at being a star in their role, you know. And I'm a huge David Castillo fan, and I think he's finding a way to master that now, coming off the bench and playing his role and being as consistent as he can be on both ends. You know, I was down there. I think I went to the Seton Hall. I won't say open gym, but I was at Seton Hall's pregame, and for K-State, obviously, and I was talking to David, you know, as they were having breakfast, because that game started at like 12:30, maybe something like that. And I was like, hey, look, no matter how many shots go in for you, go lead us in rebounding. And then he went and got 6 rebounds, you know. So, like, just to have that short conversation with him, and he applies it to the game, and it just translates naturally, you know, if that's somebody that tells me, like, I'm mastering being a star in my role, whether it impacts me scoring, being the leading scorer, or it just impacts winning the game, you know. And for him to take that step, you know, being a junior now, and obviously, like, just being consistent, it's dope to see, because I've seen him come in as a freshman and pretty much have to wait his turn.
Sophomore now.
Sophomore.
Yeah. Fact checking in here, J.O.
Playing like a junior.
I mean, Clint, you know, you obviously know David Castillo like the back of your hand, but with David and Taj, you know, the guys that stick to the university and go through the maybe, I don't want to call it the struggles, but you wait for your time, essentially. You know, Taj redshirted his first year, and those guys, I'm not saying that anybody else wouldn't absorb your guys' wisdom, but if there's anybody on this team, along with, you know, I said Taj, but David Castillo is your guy to fully embrace that and understand what it means to wear that purple jersey.
Well, and he's always been one that he's going to he'll take criticism really well, and he'll take advice from people that have played the game really well also, right? And so he's a guy that, man, he wants to play his best every single time he steps on the court. Like, that's his main focus, is to play his best. After the game against ULM, so I'm talking to him after the game, and he didn't think he shot the ball as well as he could have, and so he had one shot that I thought it was a pass. I mean, it was so bad, right? He said, as soon as I shot that shot, the first thing that went through my mind is, I'm coming back in the gym tonight. Like, that was his, after he said, I'm coming back in the gym to get more shots up tonight, right? Because he wants to play the best that he can play every single time that he's on the floor. And he's committed to Kansas State. A lot of guys, after the year he had last year, which wasn't the best year by his means that he would have wanted to have as a freshman, most guys would say, I'm out. I didn't have the year I want, I'm going somewhere else, right? But he stuck around because he says, hey, I can play better. I think I can still give Kansas State more of what people expected of me, right? And then he got to work, and that's what he does. Just gets to work in the gym nonstop because he feels like he has something to prove every single time he steps on that basketball floor. So it's great to see him flourish, and obviously some things have fell his way. He's playing really well. Hopefully that will continue into Big 12 play. And as you mentioned, Taj Manning, I think he's a very similar type of guy, man. He's a guy that's kind of waited his turn, been around, the whole time. And most guys at his level, he could have went to, for sure, a smaller D1 and been a starter and got all the minutes that he wanted to get, right? But he said, I'm going to stay here at Kansas State, and I'm going to prove to myself, to these coaches, that I deserve to get on the floor. It's unfortunate that obviously Moby got an injury, but that opened up a door for Taj to get opportunity, and it's up to him to go take it. And he's been doing a really good job of taking that opportunity and running with it. A couple of things I meant to mention this live on air the other day, but Taj Manning, man, looked at his plus minus, and for the last few games, so he was Seton Hall, he was plus 9. All right, game that we lost, obviously, he was first our team and plus 9. Mississippi Valley State, we beat them by 30. He was plus 18. Everybody was plus 20 or more on that one. Creighton, on the road, he played 12 minutes and was plus 10, which was second on our team, right, in 12 minutes of play. South Dakota State, he played 20 minutes and was plus 32, which was first on our team, right? The other night, he was plus 8, which was maybe tied for second or something. And so, he's just a guy that J.O. talked about impact winning. He impacts winning, right? And not all that doesn't mean you have to go score the ball when you have it every single time. It's, can you do the little things to help the team win? Can you rebound? Can you defend? Can you communicate? Can you take charges? Can you do those little things that add up to winning basketball games? And those are things that Taj Manning and David Castillo try to do every single day.
Clent, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Do you know who Kansas State basketball's all-time leading shot blocker is?
The guy
there you go.
Right here.
That guy. That guy knows how to block shots. And the player who Kansas State has right now, Doreen Buka, is a towering presence down low, one of the tallest players in K-State history. From Bracket Cat, curious to hear what J.O. thinks of Buka's development so far.
Yo, Bracket Cat, man, when I came to that Seton Hall game, that was the game he, I believe, started getting minutes in. I don't know about prior to that, but he's a huge threat around the rim, offensively and defensively. I still feel like we need to throw him more high-low passes just because he's really good at sealing and getting position. His sealing game reminds me of Thomas Gibson, just at a 7-foot version of it, and you could tell he's still a little bit raw because, he's still adjusting to the game of American style basketball. But he matches the physicality. If he continues to improve his conditioning, his minutes should go up in Big 12 play because he's going to be able to match that physicality with every big in the Big 12. I love McGriff, by the way. So there's no shame on him because he's just a good, polished, big in the Big 12. And I'm a huge fan of him because he's a lefty as well. But Buka is that guy that he's that prototypical Big 12 big from my playing days, where you had true centers. He gives you that true center feel. I think he might have shot a 3 against ULM. Yep. And look, I ain't knocking him on it because the day and age we live in, it gets you paid, but he shot it with confidence. So for me, that was a plus. But to know his positives and his strengths is down low, sealing, and just keeping that ball alive on the rim offensively and defensively, creating those second chance opportunities because we've struggled rebounding. He does give you that true center presence in the 12, and I think it's going to be huge going into conference play.
Mentioned Big Gip. Does Doreen Booker does he remind the way he plays? Is that similar to you at all, Jo?
Nah, I was different. I was just real different, man.
Jay would have knocked down that 3 for 1.
Yeah.
I don't think I shot a 3 in college, just the time and the age, but shot a lot of them as a pro. But I think Buka, he gives me more of that like feel of like a Cole Aldridge. Now, not as skilled, but like just that big presence where like you could kind of throw him the ball when he's got that position on you, and he's got enough touch around the rim to finish. Now, there are a lot of skilled bigs back in my time frame where, you can give it to them on a post, but we haven't really seen Buka, get a post touch and just go to a post move and get a bucket that I can recall. But I think he's probably one of the best in the Big 12 when it comes to sealing and getting that position. Got to throw the ball more to him because those are just easy baskets around the rim. And it takes pressure off of our guards as well. If you get him a few touches in a row, and I think he's been coming off the bench because big fella McGriff has been starting. But, just his energy off the bench alone, and you're getting him the ball early, and, PJ don't really come out the game much. So, getting him those touches gives PJ and those guys like a little breather. Him, Nate, Abdi, give some guys a little breather where, they're not trying to make a play every single possession. I just think big fella got that touch around the rim, and his positioning and sealing is probably some of the best I've seen in college basketball this year. It's just a short frame of time of him really coming along and getting those minutes and building up his conditioning. If he can, I think he's a 25 to 26 minute kind of guy, if his conditioning is there, for sure.
You don't see that, the type of player, especially here in Manhattan. I understand Jerome Tang has had, Will McNair and Colbert, Ugonna Onyenso last season. And not that Buka's skinny, but, those were some big bodies, and Buka's got the height, but you don't see those, many of these types of players now in college basketball. And, Tang is always talking about flipping over every rock and doing everything he can in every, single facet of being in charge of the program and going not only overseas and getting 3 guys, but a player like Buka, who's, I don't want to say he's unusual in the Big 12 now, but, you don't see these super tall players nowadays, it seems like.
The game has really transformed more to, pace and space, right? And you have 5 men now who really hang out, around the 3-point line, right? 5 out type of offense a lot. And so you don't see the traditional bigs, as Jo has mentioned, that are really good at sealing down low and scoring the ball a lot around the rim, just because of the way the game has kind of transformed where, now you have more shooting on the floor than anything else. But as you mentioned, Buka is definitely, you can see his development from the first game to now. He's taking steps up the ladder, which is really good to see.
Another comment in here from Awake. Considering how important a strong start is in conference play, how do you see the team responding if there's a setback against some strong opponents like BYU or Arizona? And guys, this all just goes back to consistency. K-State won 5 games, lost 4, and then won 4. You see it just in the vacuum of one game. You see K-State have lulls and you see K-State have runs. So taking a step back, it's just going to be consistency. If Kansas State can have a bigger windshield than the rear view, right, you're going to be just fine. And having a short memory is key in the Big 12. You lose to BYU and Arizona, it's not going to be the end of the world because those are 2 good teams, as long as you simply move past it and prepare and lock in for Arizona State that comes up a couple days after that.
I think you hit it on the nail, Ryan, and I'm looking back because PJ Haggerty said this after the Seton Hall game. I was trying to see if that makes sure I was right. Next game went in against Mississippi Valley State, and he said, we just got to get 1 win. We just got to get a win. And once we do that, right, you kind of get back on the right track. And obviously we've seen, we got 1, now we got 4, right? 4 in a row. And so, I think that's the motto is, if we go 18-0 in the Big 12, hey, we're going to be the number 1 team in the country, right? That's how it's going to be, right? We're not going to go 18-0. There's not going to be a Big 12 team that goes 18-0. If they are, they'll be the number 1 team in the country. But after a loss, you really have to focus just on the next game. All right, put that one behind us. What did we learn? And now, can we go and play better in the next game to go 1-0, right? And then that's the whole mindset. So going into this game against BYU, it's 1-0, right? That's the whole mindset, right? Win or lose, it's 1-0. We win, the next game, all right, Arizona, it's 1-0, right? If we lose, next game, it's Arizona, it's 1-0. Like that's got to be the mindset. And there's so many games, and you play 18 games. And so, at this point in time, early on in the season, yes, you want to start off strong, but there is a lot of games to still make up if you do have a couple losses early that you can make up in the end. But like I said, what you can't have happen is, I think this team is different, just the mindset than last year, just as far as the guys seem to really – Coach Tank's talked about this, a lot more camaraderie between the guys as far as liking each other and playing with each other. And I think the guys will try to figure things out. And so what you hope happens is either way, win or lose, they can just reset and focus in on the next game and try to go 1-0 every single time.
Yeah,
Clent.
I use a famous quote all the time from one of my former coaches. I actually played for him at Kansas State, Frank Martin. He would always say, stay the course. You got to stay the course, man. Whether you have your ups and downs, you got to stay the course because there's just too many games of basketball left. We was in a situation my junior year where we was on the fringe of not making the NCAA tournament and having to go to Baylor on the road, having to go to Mizzou on the road, and then we beat them. And that changed our whole dynamic of our season. And then we ended up getting in, I think, as an 8 or 9 seed, playing Southern Miss, and then obviously playing Syracuse in that second round. But, no matter how the season is going, obviously it's a different time and age now. The Big 12 is more of a gauntlet, but you got to stay the course. You got to be consistent at what you do. You got to take what you get in your W's and build from that. Like, what Clent says and what Coach Tank says, being 1-0 every day, that just reminds me of staying the course.
Clent's talked about the win over Kansas your senior year and dropping the next one, getting maybe too high from that. And, if you guys could both go into this locker room right now, I assume you would say, hey, J.O., your junior year, you beat Mizzou and Baylor, right? Those were two good teams and, boosted the resume, but you guys didn't think your stuff stunk after you kept locking in and getting better, right? So obviously if you get a big win in Big 12 play, Kansas State's good enough to at least win against Iowa State here or a KU there. Those are going to happen. K-State's going to have some highs. How you respond is how you truly build that character.
1,000%. I think it's more of about, like you said, you can't get too high on yourself. We go out there and beat BYU and we beat Arizona, we're going to have a target on our back. You know what I mean? Like it's doable. It's not something that is unrealistic. If guys are locked in and they play K-State basketball for 40 minutes, we can go beat any team in the country. It's just literally about being consistent and staying the course. I love staying the course. I use it as a coaching term because it's just so much basketball and so much things can fluctuate where you face adversity. You can get back up and punch somebody in the mouth, not literally, but whether it's a run, whether it's a game that you lose, a tough one, whether it's a missed free throw that causes the game or change the direction of the game. It's just so much basketball to be played. You got to stay locked in because Big 12 is a gauntlet, but at the same time, you are who you are, when you are between those lines, and you got to be locked in with your brothers from start to finish. And as long as you are instilled and you trust your coaching staff, which I'm pretty firm that they do, they can go out there and beat any team in the Big 12. Now, like Clent said, ain't nobody going 18-0. Realistically, it could be Houston, but aside from them, Coach Sampson is my guy. He coached me when I was with the Houston Rockets my rookie year. That was actually one of his last years in the NBA before he took the Houston job. So I know what he's preaching to them in that locker room. But I think maybe outside of them going 18-0, there's too many good teams in the Big 12 for teams to go 18-0. And it's going to be realistically 8 to 10 teams that get in the NCAA tournament from the Big 12 because I'm a firm believer we are the best conference in the country. So for us to go 10-8, we can get in. We can get a bid. If we can go 11-7, all right, I think we're really good. We in good hands. So, it kind of goes back to what I said a few minutes ago about just this winter break. this is going to be the time where it makes or breaks you. Just from a consistency standpoint, where you don't get down on yourself too much because it's so much basketball to be played. But you figure out who you are in this time. You know, whatever happened in the past, wins and losses up to this moment, you know, got to scratch that. You know, it goes back to what Clent was just saying, being 1-0 every day.
I'm not sure how much you guys have followed the whole G League player drama with Scott Drew and coaches. I try to stay out of that stuff. Jerome Tang has said that Scott Drew, isn't breaking any rules, and if it's within the rules, then have at it. But my man Brody comes in here. Thoughts on Baylor adding a G League player, good for college basketball or bad? I don't know if you guys have even followed this or not, but I'll give you a chance to talk.
I don't think it's – I'll say this. I think it's bad for the G League. I don't think the G League is going to exist in the next couple of years because guys, the two-way guys are just going to stay up, or they're going to get rid of two-way players because they obviously like the development in the G League for those guys and moving them up and down. But I don't see guys staying in the G League that may have gone undrafted but have eligibility left. I don't even understand all the rules pertaining to it, but I don't think the G League is going to exist in a couple of years. I think those guys are going to be coming back to college. So I think it's bad for college basketball, but it's really bad for the young guys that put the work in high school to get, get the notoriety of trying to get a scholarship to go to school for free and to be able to play at a high level, whether it's high, mid, or low. It's going to really impact them. Over the last 4 or 5 years, it already has. And now it's just times 1,000, with guys that are professional athletes being able to come back and play college basketball is kind of absurd to me. But at the same time, Coach Tang says, Scott Drew's not breaking no rules. So if the rules is, if I can go get a guy that's been a 3-4 year pro and he's eligible to play college basketball, why not take advantage of it?
Yeah, why not? Why not stick around and get a couple $1 million for one more year of collegiate basketball? Why not?
Well, and I think that's what, it's something that affects us in the time that we're in right now. But I think as the years go on, as Dale kind of mentioned, like it's really going to dissipate the G League. I mean, guys are going to want to stay in college, right? Like if I'm making $2 million in college, why would I go to the G League and I'm not making $2 million, right? I mean, like
making 50,000.
So I'm going to stay in college my extra year and exhaust my eligibility, right, before I try to move on, right? Unless I know I'm going to be a top draft pick. So I think we'll end up seeing is just more guys that aren't a top draft pick, right? They're going to try to stay in college as long as they can. If I had another year of eligibility to get some NIL money, I might go back, right? After 16 years later, whatever, 20 years later. But that's what I think we're going to see in the long run. I mean, this is just kind of a weird period right now where it will affect, some guys, and it's not breaking the rules. It is what it is, and it's kind of tough for all those. You see a lot of coaches are talking about it. Most of them are negative about it, and I can understand that. But if it's within the rules, it's up to NCAA to figure out, what they're going to do about it.
You and David Castillo could be the first duo, high school coach,
player coach, right?
So good luck with that, Clent. Good luck. Another one from Bracket Cat I want to bring up. What are the guys' thoughts on why this team keeps blowing 20-point leads, and what can the coaches and or players do to fix it or stop it from happening? If you guys say anything other than defense, I would be surprised.
Well, I think defense. I think too, just not getting comfortable. And I think against ULM, playing a team that you're going to win or you should win, and you get out to a 20-point lead, and you're like, yep, this is how it's supposed to go, right? You start just getting a little bit comfortable, and you stop attacking the way you're attacking offensively, right? You stop guarding a little bit. They make a couple shots, and now they get their confidence back. I think for us, it's, it comes down to, man, the game is 40 minutes. Dale mentioned, like, we got to play a full 40 minutes, and we've gotten away with it in a few games because just the lack of competition. But in the Big 12, there's not going to be a lack of competition, right? And so the full 40 minutes has got to be the mindset. And for our guys, hopefully they can understand that, no matter if there's time left on the clock, then you got to play basketball, and whether that's 10 minutes left, 5 minutes left, 10 seconds left, like, you got to go finish the basketball game. You got to go win. And I'm sure Coach Tang is preaching that to his guys, especially after this ULM, win, and how we kind of snuck that one out at the end. But But on the flip side of that, we found some ways to win games that, maybe we should, like the Tulsa game, we probably shouldn't have won that game. I mean, to be honest with you, and somehow we found a way to win. So there's some things there. It's like, all right, our team is finding ways to win, but now how can we get those leads and sustain them? And so we feel really good about the win and not just kind of sneaking them out in the end. And it comes down, we got to guard and we got to be consistent in our approach every single time.
Yeah, consistency. And obviously defense, I believe we were up close to, 18 at Creighton, and we kind of blew that lead, but, the shots were falling in the first half. And it's like, okay, if that's not happening in the second half, that's basketball. You know what I mean? Like, so what are we going to do in other ways to impact, not having to, score and the lead fluctuate where we're losing that 18 to 20 point lead, and that could just be, being more aggressive, getting to the basket. We shoot a lot of threes. And this is an old quote, was live and die by it. But, in the Big 12, you don't want to live and die by the three. So, I'm a huge fan of Buka, man. I get big fellas some touches down there, draw some fouls. Cam is good around the basket as well. If we can go into the Big 12 and lead the Big 12 as an offensive rebounding team, just from an efficiency standpoint, we're going to give ourselves chances to win a lot of games, win a lot of tough games at that. Because offensive rebounding, even when your shot ain't falling, if you got guys crashing and creating second chance opportunities, and now we're getting to the free throw line, or now we're getting, somebody that's an impact on the other end, for that other team in foul trouble, those are the games that you tough out and grind out where, you're causing havoc on that glass. So I think, if we can be one of the top offensive rebounding teams in the Big 12, those games where, they might not have us favored to win, those are the games that we can sneak out, because we do have that size and presence down there.
So Ryan, as J.O. was saying this, it reminded me of something I told a kid today. So I'm assistant coach at Olathe West, and I have a 6-foot guard on our team. He doesn't start for us. I won't mention his name, but about 6-foot guard, and one of the more athletic kids on the team. And I've been talking to him about crashing the offensive rebounds, crashing just because he's so athletic, right? And most 6-foot guards say, yeah, you need to be getting back on shot. I'm like, no, we want you going to crash. And so today he went in and crashed and got two offensive rebounds back-to-back in a row. And I told him, I said, getting offensive rebounds is a winning play. Every single time you get an offensive rebound, that's a winning play. And we have to make more winning. If we want to win basketball games, you got to make more winning plays than the other team. So those second chance opportunities, as Joe mentioned, like those are winning plays for our basketball team. And if we can have more of those, then we'll be on the good side more often than not.
Another one from Finally Tuned. How many games does K-State realistically need to win to get into the NCAA tournament? And obviously it depends on what some of these non-conference teams do and who you beat, who you lose to. But 9-9, you're probably going to have to maybe do some work in Kansas City to really solidify that resume come Selection Sunday. But if you go 500 and, like J.O. said, the Big 12, such a tough league, you're going to be feeling, okay. I think if you get 10 or more wins, you're in. You can't say a 10-win Big 12 team isn't worthy, regardless of maybe how mediocre the non-conference resume looks. If you win 10 Big 12 games and then another one in KC, I mean, guys, come on, you're in. So I would say get to 9 in these first 18 games, and then try to do some damage in KC and see where the chips fall.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you get 10, I know the Big 12 is expanded now to more teams than what it was in the past. But back in the day, it was Big 12. Like, you got 10 wins, you were automatically in the NCAA tournament until my junior year, Bob Huggins, and we got 10, and Texas Tech didn't get 10 or something, or maybe they got 10 as well, but we ended up beating them in the Big 12 tournament, and then they got in and we didn't because they had Coach Knight and they wanted Bobby Knight in the tournament, right? That was like the first time ever, hey, you got 10 wins in the Big 12, but you don't make the tournament. That's unheard of. Like, what? And so I think if we get to 10, I think we'll feel really good about ourselves. Obviously, more than that, we're definitely in. And if we're at 9-9, I think there's still opportunity, but you might have to do some work in the Big 12 tournament. Now, the good thing about that, if you're 9-9, you're going to be playing another 500 or so team in the first round of the Big 12 tournament, right? I mean, you'll probably be like the 8-9 seed, whatever it is. And so you'll be playing, kind of a like team where you should have an opportunity to win 1 or 2 games in the Big 12 tournament to solidify yourself of getting in. So, but hopefully, for us, you you hope that we can get to 10, and then you don't have to worry about the Big 12 tournament. You can just worry about, can we start playing our best, as we're leading into the NCAA tournament.
And I think realistically, January is a little bit frightening from a scheduling standpoint, and leading into February 1st against Iowa State. So, like, those key wins come in January. Those key wins come in January where it's going to help, when Joe Lunardi comes out with the bubble and all of that stuff, like, you're going to see K-State on there, because as those games in February start to flow in after February 1st, I think we should be in a good position if we beat some of those top-ranked teams where you can see the consistency in who they are throughout the course of the season, in the Big 12. Them first 9 games is real. Maybe outside of the UCF and Utah, January gets real, including February 1st. So, those are the games you got to sneak out and get those wins against those top-ranked opponents, our top 10 teams alone in general. I think it's good that we're playing Kansas first at home. Later on in the month, I think that's February 26th or the 28th. January 26th or 28th, one of those days. But
hey, Clinton would have no issues going to Allen Fieldhouse. He won there, unlike you, Jo. I'm just saying.
No, that's a fact. Listen, man, I don't have good memories in Allen. The last time I was in Allen, it wasn't even as a player. I was going to support Dean Wade burying them, and that's when Speed took eight steps, with the ball picked up from half court to put the game in overtime. So that was my last time going into the fog, as they call it. But I'll probably be there for that one too, man. Just I've kind of let that one go, man. It was intense. That was an intense environment, as it always is. But yeah, I needed to take a break from being in Allen Fieldhouse, going to support our cast, man. After that game there, back in 2016, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Man, January is going to be the month where we gotta solidify ourselves, and then obviously in February, I promise you, I didn't even look past February 1st because these first 9 games are crucial. The first half of our Big 12 games are so crucial. It is going to allow us to put ourselves in the NCAA tournament from there, and then in February we gotta be consistent and win games and continue to win games, because I think you go 6-3, and 2 of those wins are UCF and Utah, and you get those other key wins against those top 10 teams and just ranked opponents, we'll be ranked going into February. I do solely believe that. I think in Ken Pom, we're like in the 70s or something like that, so you go and beat Arizona State, and BYU to start this off. We're talking about that following Monday of us probably being a top 25 team, realistically.
Yeah, if you think mentally too, okay, I'm 6-3. I'm part of a good team here. We can go win these last 9 games and really do this. If you're, I don't know, you're 1-8 or something, yeah, mathematically you can turn things around, but confidence-wise, it's probably not going to be there. So, yeah, Jay, I'm with you, man. You've got to come out of the gate here and make a statement to the rest of the league. Make a statement to America that Kansas State University, this basketball program, is going to compete in the Big 12.
No doubt. That's what it's about.
Another question here I want to bring up, guys. I love the questions. Keep them coming in. This makes my job so much easier. About defense, question is, how much emphasis is being put on defense in practice right now? At times, players ease up, and that's something that can't happen in the Big 12. We're not in the locker room. Obviously, I know when Matthew Driscoll came in initially this offseason, it was all offense. And if I'm Jerome Tang, though, I think your defense needs to get better than your offense, if that makes sense, right? Your defense has to improve. Your offense can win you games. Defensively, K-State's got to step it up.
Yeah, and I think what we're seeing is we do a lot, and the game is played this way anyways, but we do a lot of switching. And to be able to do a lot of switching, there has to be superb communication all the time on the floor, between the 2 guys that are switching, whether it's an on-ball screen, off-ball screen, like there has to be communication all the time. And I right now, I don't being there live and in the ULM game, like there's just not enough communication all the time. And so guys are getting lost, right? And one guy thinks we're switching, one guy doesn't. And it's like, well, what are we doing, right? And so switching is great, and switching can make the game easier. But a lot of times teams that switch to make the game easier, they're really good defensive teams. And then like the switching just is kind of like the cherry on top to just make it easier for them, right? We're not a really good defensive team. And like the switching I think has caused even more confusion in some aspects just because the communication's been bad, right? So I think that has to get fixed up, is like our communication has to be better. And some of that might be like, hey, maybe we don't switch. Like, guard your freaking man. See if we can guard our man. Like, can you guard your man one-on-one? Can you get through the screen? Like, do you have that kind of mindset? Because that's how you start playing harder, right? And we got to play harder defensively, in certain aspects. But at the same time, the way the game works is there's very few teams that are really good offensively and really good defensively, right? Like, there's some, but most teams are going to lean one way or the other. Right. But what you can't have is you can't be really good offensively and just poor defensively. Like, you have to bring that up somewhere, balance that somewhere in the middle. Right. Like, we don't have to be the best Big 12 defensive team, but we can't be the worst either. Right. Like, we got to be somewhere in the middle where it says, all right, our defense can at least hold. When we need to get a stop, we can get a stop. And then our offense can go win the game because we have guys that can really score the basketball. Right. So I think it's going to be key that our defense continues to get better. I'm sure Coach Tay, the question was how much of that is going on in practice. Like, I'm almost 110% sure Coach Tay is preaching that every single day in practice. Like, we have to be better defensively, right? Like, we have to. It comes down to the guys that want to, right, and playing as hard, communicating every single time. And then, like I said, a lot of times it comes down to just, like, can you guard your man, bro? Like, can you guard your man? Do you have the mentality to say, I'm going to do everything I can to stop my man? Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but like, you can tell by the effort and the energy that's been put out that you're trying to make it happen, right? And I think that's where our guys have to get to, hopefully, as we start heading into the Big 12, of like every single time, if you're tired, you mentioned that, like, ask to come out, right? And you're tired because you're playing so freaking hard, and that's what it has to be if we want to make steps in the right direction defensively. Like, we're not going to be the best defensive team. Doesn't matter what we do. We're not. But we can definitely get better, and I'm sure Coach Ting is preaching that each and every day.
No, he's preaching that for sure. Because when I went to shoot around, for the Seton Hall game, even though we lost, those guys had a 15-minute segment where they were playing that zone defense, that they threw at Seton Hall. So, I know they're emphasizing it in the locker room. I know they're emphasizing it on the court every day. And, back to what I said, if we're going to get better defensively, even just a little bit, is during this time frame now. It's not going to happen in January or February. At that point, it's just going to be too late. It's going to show now, especially on Saturday, where we're going to be switching left and right, and it's going to be Nate Johnson guarding AJ Nabansa with the clock going down. Like Clent said, can you guard your man? No matter how much switching we do, can we win our matchup defensively? Can you guard your man for 40 minutes straight? Okay, you're not going to stop him every single possession, but that's why you have your brothers to have your back when it comes to rotations and whatnot. So, the communication has to get better defensively, especially on our switching. I can't really attest to it too much because as a big guy, I'm either in the drop, I'm either in the hard hedge, or I'm blitzing it. But I know my communication to my guard, if I don't talk to my guard when a ball screen is coming and he gets cracked, let's say Clint's my team, he got every reason to punch me in the chest. Yo, why you ain't say nothing to me? Okay, that's on me. So it's very important that the communication is there because I think with the energy that's going to be in Bramlage alone, it's really going to come down to those guys in between those lines to match that energy with our fan base to be there, because it's going to be a lot of possessions where we're going to be guarding it straight down to the shot clock. And can we get a stop, right, on our matchup? And then can we rebound? Can we gang rebound? Because at the end of the day, if they get second chance opportunities and they're getting offensive rebounds, well, that's more possessions of us guarding the ball. And that's not going to do us any due diligence in a 40-minute span of a game.
You've talked about this Seton Hall game, Clint. One of the aspects that was not pretty was the free throw shooting. Scott Nicholson comes in and asks a question for you guys. How do you feel about our shooting from the line? And it's gotten better, right? But I still can't just erase some of those struggles out of my mind In the Big 12, every point, every possession, every free throw attempt is going to matter immensely.
And that comes down to, what are you doing when nobody's in the gym? Because it's all mental. You know what I mean? Like, cool. I understand that from somebody that didn't shoot the ball really well from the free throw line. And I would put the time in when nobody was around to shoot free throws. So, like, how much time are guys putting in that, when outside of practice or coming in the morning before they go to class to make 50, to make 100, because that consistency is going to show when the lights come on. And I'm just a firm believer of that.
Yeah, I mean, so Seton Hall, I think we went 15 for 35. And it's like, if we make, we're shooting on the season 70%. So if we make 70% there, hey, we probably beat Seton Hall just by making free throws, right? So, I mean, every point is really important. Free throws, a lot of times the game comes down to the offensive rebounding, right? So rebounding stats, your free throws, right? Can you attempt more than the other team, and can you make more than the other team, right? And then turnovers, like, can you take care of the basketball, right? And that's what a lot of times the game comes down to. Those kind of three stats will tell the story of wins and losses, and so for us, I think we have good shooters. I mean, free throw shooters. I mean, PJ, David, Nate, Abdi, we have good shooters. Obviously, we see that by the way we shoot the ball from the outside. And so like J.O. mentioned, a lot of it can just be mental. Like, hey, what are we doing? Are we put in the extra time that's needed? And if we are, then, sometimes it's small mechanics. I remember when I was in high school, I was a really good free throw shooter in high school up until my senior year. And all it was a small mechanical thing that I had a shooting coach that fixed. And all of a sudden, into the state tournament, I started making free throws again, and so a lot of times it's recognizing like, hey, what am I doing wrong and what can I do to try to fix it? And then just buying into that and seeing that work. But it's good. I mean, the Big 12 comes down. A lot of games come down to one or two possessions. So whether that's the free throws, the rebounding, the turnovers, or the defensive stops, like, can we get a stop on this possession? Like, that's what it's going to come down to, and we're going to have to do those things.
And then I think also, I think the big guys at that free throw line's got to have a different mentality. Hey, we're not a good free throw shooting team. So when that second free throw was going up, I am hauling my tail to the rim to put myself in position to either get the offensive rebound and score or get the offensive rebound to kick it out, just to create that second chance opportunity. I'm a firm believer of this. It's this Brad Underwood taught us it, when I was at K-State. He was my big man coach. It's like A or B, and we're communicating. We're communicating on the line to one another. Hey, which way you going? A or B? They don't gotta know which way we're going, but we know which way we're going by just having that communication with one another. And that created second chance opportunities for ourselves. But then again, that's why we were one of the best rebounding teams, not just in the Big 12, but in the country in my 4 years. So just like that communication with guys on that free throw line, like, especially the big guys, because you can create that second chance opportunity. That can change the flow of a game. Like, let's say if we're not making shots, or we're getting to the foul line and we're not making free throws. Now that can try to change the pace of the game a little bit, like, where a team is not coming down and running their offense, but now they got a guard after fouling us and putting us on the free throw line. So, our big guys got to have that mentality of going every single time, and don't be afraid to pick up a foul. Like, if I go pick up a foul because I'm being aggressive to go get an offensive rebound, I can live with that. Now I just can't be idiotic and go pick up your second or third where you're in foul trouble. Now you got to come out of the game. So it's just like big fella like Buka, man, and Cam. Like, those guys should lead the Big 12 in offensive rebounds off the free throw line. I don't even know if that's a statistic, but mentally I'm telling myself that, oh, look, I'm going to get two of those. I know we're shooting 70 as a team. I know how many times in the possession where I might be on that free throw line where I can create a second chance opportunity. I got to go get that one. I got to go create a second chance opportunity. But yeah, that's just my thought. Just from being a big guy and literally flourishing. And listen, I was skinny. I was not the biggest guy in the 12, man. And I was flat-footed, but one thing you wasn't gonna outsmart me on that free throw line. Whether you was bigger, smaller than me, I was going to that glass regardless. A or B.
So I want to give you, because I know people that watch the show, they like the little details and the not. And Jo just dropped some really good insight to the game that I hope people caught here. But when he's speaking of like A or B, and then with our high school guys, we do A, B, or C now. But it's all just a call on what you're doing on the free throw lines. We call it kind of like free throw game. So for example, I'm gonna go through an A, B, or C scenario, right? Let's say A is all we're doing on the free throw line is we're just trying to get to the middle of the floor. Like we're trying to, as soon as that shot goes up, we're trying to push our guy underneath the bucket and get to the middle of the floor, right? Let's say B might be we're going to spin back. All right, hey, B, we're spinning back. So now we're taking a step in as the shot goes off, and we're spinning back to the outside trying to get the offensive rebound, right? And then C might be, hey, we're going to cross, right? If we're crossing, either I got to go first, or Jay might say, I'm going first, so we don't run into each other, right? So now when that shot goes up, he tries to cross and get in front of the guy that's blocking me out, and I'm going to try to cross and get in front of his guy, right? So we're just crossing as the shot goes up to try to get offensive rebound. And so it's those little details in the game that can help get yourself extra opportunities that, I mean, I didn't know about until I got to college, right? So it starts talking like, oh, I didn't even think about this piece of the game. So those are small details. So really good knowledge there that Jo is dropping. So I hope people pick that up.
Hopefully this never has to happen in Big 12 play. K-State makes every free throw, ABC, none of that matters, but I'm afraid it's going to. And, you guys bring up a good point. Grabbing, Jo, if you're Buka, go in and give yourself a goal. I'm grabbing 2 offensive boards from the free throw line in this game. That's what I'm setting out to do, because that can be a difference maker in what's expected to be a tight battle every night. I did get a notification here on my phone. It's breaking news. Jordan Henriquez and Clent Simpson are coming back for eligibility. I don't know if you guys heard this, but you guys might be able to go play a game in Lawrence and win now. I don't know.
Hey, look, man. If there's a will, there's a way, man. I don't know the statute of limitations on eligibility, man. But
if you're just now tuning in, you missed our conversation earlier. But I think everybody can have eligibility now. Who knows?
Oh man, that's good. I don't know if my body will hold up, but I definitely try.
Well, you guys saw what Phillip Rivers did. You're never too old to play.
Motivation right there.
Yeah.
Motivation. My realization came when I was coaching at NIU 2 seasons ago, and the big guy that they brought me in for, to get better and coach up was Yannick Konan-Niederhauser. He was the 30th pick in this NBA draft with the Los Angeles Clippers, and big boy is from, I think he's from Switzerland. Correct me if I'm wrong. But having to guard him every day was like I need to be lifting consistently. I need to be eating right, because, one time I just got hit by him and I was like, oh, that didn't feel good. And and then from there, that's when I started playing in my manager games, because I'm like, every day I got to be ready for our big guys, just because they're in shape now. Him alone, he's 7'1", very skilled. But just having to bang with him every day as a footer, I was like, man, I don't know if somebody called me for a job. I don't know if I'd take it, because going up against a college kid right now, it hurts. My body was hurting. So, even if that eligibility, came to life, man, I definitely second guess it. Maybe even think about it for a month or two before I make a decision.
A couple questions before we wrap up, guys. Another one from Finally Tuned. With the emphasis on pace and running, how much success relies on set plays? It seems that sets really matter in close games, and most conference games are close. Are we good at that? And it's a good question, because when the 5-out offense and the way things are kind of free-flowing, maybe there aren't as many set plays as another team might run. But when you need a bucket, sometimes you need to do more than just say, hey, go score. You got to draw something up.
Yeah, and I think what we've seen over Tang's time in Manhattan, he's one. I mean, we've always been a really good set play out of a timeout, whether that's under or a sideline out of bounds or coming down and then playing out of it. And so, I think with our guys, I mean, that's one of the things that we've just traditionally been pretty good at executing the set plays. Now, obviously, you can't run those every single time down. I mean, you have to have a motion free-flowing type of offense or play out the ball screen or something. But I think, he's he's shown that and our guys have shown that we can execute, and not just this year, but even previous years, set plays really well, especially at ATOs. So I'm pretty confident in that aspect of it, and obviously bringing in Driscoll, I'm sure he has a slew of ATOs that he's probably added to the bank as well that we can run, and those guys can execute and at least get the shot that we want to get. But when you have a guy like PJ Haggerty, a lot of it, sometimes it's not even about a set play. It's can we just play on the ball screen, right? And you have guys that can shoot the ball like Abdi, like David, like Nate Johnson. I mean, like can space the floor. Let's play out of it and just make the right play. And players got to go make plays, whether it's a set play or whether it's not. Like it comes down to players making plays, and so that's what you hope to see more often than not.
And man, just to kind of piggyback off of Clent, I know how good PJ Haggerty is, but in my opinion, the game changer is David Castillo. When David Castillo has the ball in his hands, and just to keep in mind, he was an injury away from being a McDonald's All-American, and he's playing to that level right now as a sophomore. So my apologies on calling him a junior earlier. He's playing to that level right now, and I think after the Seton Hall loss, they played PJ off the ball a little bit more with that ball in David's hands, and you've kind of seen a lot of good things happen. So I think, going into Big 12 play, the focus and PJ obviously being at the top of the scouting report, you're going to see David Castillo in a lot of those games closing out. As long as he continues to be consistent every day and just being the star in his role that he has been, I am a true believer when that ball is in his hands, we're either going to get a good shot or he's going to make something happen, just because he is that good of a player.
Yeah, not that there wasn't confidence, when I was watching myself last year, not that that's the case, but this year, right now, anytime that ball just leaves Castillo's hand, it's like it's going in. You think it's going in. It might not, but the way, you can't put your finger on this. There's no way to measure this, but the confidence that Castillo has continued to play with. And, guys, a lot's been made about Taj Manning and the development that he's made. Who's to say Taj doesn't look over at David and say, wow, like, hey, I can do that. I'm just as capable. Let's ride.
Well, yeah. And you think about David, our second leading scorer is coming off the bench, right? I mean, that's our second leading scorer right now. And it kind of reminds me a lot of Cartier Martin. So my junior year, when we obviously had Henry Walker came in, and and obviously everything tremendous player and had a lot of the accolades coming in, and Bob Huggins recruited him, and Huggins set Cartier down and said, hey, we have Henry coming in, and Henry's going to start. Now, mind you, Cartier's coming off of a year where he was just all Big 12, maybe second team or something, and and he said, I need you to be a star in your role, right? I need you to come off the bench, and I need you to provide a scoring punch for us off the bench, and it's not going to jeopardize your minutes. You're still going to play starters minutes, right? We're still going to run plays for you, but like this is what I need you to do for us to try to be the best that we can be, right? And Cartier bought into it, and he came off the bench, right? He sacrificed his starting role. Similar to we talked about David saying, hey, I will come off the bench, sacrifice my starting role for the better of the team, right? So hopefully we can be the best that we can be, right? And then obviously David has flourished in that role. Cartier that year went on to still make all Big 12 team, and obviously got drafted, got into the NBA. So it didn't affect his draft status, nothing, right? It was all about winning, you know what I'm saying? And that's where I think David is. And, he's playing really well. As J.O. mentioned, when he has the ball in his hands, like he makes plays. I think he's gotten a lot stronger. So he's more confident when he gets in there, driving the basketball and finishing through contact, at the rim.
And playing off 2 feet.
Yep. And so I think you're just seeing all those things that he's been working on, and the offseason that he put in, the work he put in the offseason paying off, now in the season. So that's really good to see. And then it's like the same thing with Taj. He's putting in a lot of work in the offseason. He's a guy that's always in the gym, always getting stronger, right? He's gonna do everything that you ask him to do. And as a coach, and guys that have coached a lot of players, right? We've coached a lot. Like, you want guys that are going to try to do everything that you ask them to do. And if you make a mistake, it's because it's not because you're not playing hard. Like, you're going to make a mistake, execution wise, you're going to turn the ball over. Like, you're not, it's not because of lack of effort. Like, you're going to give everything you have from an effort standpoint. right? And then that's the kind of guy that Taj is as well. And that makes coaching a lot more enjoyable, a lot easier when you know you have guys like that, right? Like if you make a mistake and you're going as hard as you can, hey, we can live with that. But if you make a mistake because you're just playing, lackadaisical and you're going through the motions, like we can't live with that. You know what I mean? And so it's good to see those guys and how they're playing right now.
Before we shut this down, guys, I'm not really sure how to ask this or phrase this, but Jo, you played for 3 years with Frank and then 1 with Bruce, and Clinton, you had 3 different head coaches at Kansas State when you played over your 4 years. The family, everybody preaches that here in Manhattan, and it's not just about a group of players going to play a game. You guys, you do the TBT stuff every summer, and Jo, you're back here in Kansas now. Just the loyalty to the university, and it's really a special place, isn't it, guys? I'm not sure how to phrase that, but you know what I mean. Just speak.
Man, coming from New York, Manhattan is a special place, man. Not yet alone just Kansas. You know what I mean? Because I'm so indebted with K-State, just from going to the Catbacker tours, man, showing love to the fans out on the Western Swing. There's a lot of fans that bleed purple in the state of Kansas that may not necessarily always make it to a game in Manhattan, but they bleed purple. They're supporting, whether they listening to the local radio station, whether they watching the game online, whether they're there at the game in Manhattan, but they're driving 2, 3, 4 hours away just to be there. The fans here, man, they really embrace K-State. They just athletics alone, not just basketball itself, but we've done a good amount of work in athletics over the last 15 years, where we can go back 20 years, 15, 20 years, where we've now put ourselves on a map as not just a football school. I'm a firm believer that, when it comes to K-State athletics, you want to come here and be a track and field star. One of my best friends, Eric Kennard, Jeffrey Jr., those are Olympians. Our baseball team, where we have multiple baseball players in the MLB, whether it's AAA, AA, whatever it is. We have so many pros where they come in and have success. And honestly, we've flourished, and I think we've mastered having the 2, 3 stars come in and leave as professional athletes, and that comes from the support and love that we embrace from our fans, because if we doing it and ain't nobody in the stands, you can always have the confidence, but if you don't have that aura and that loudness and that crowd where you have the student section just showing love and going all out, it's hard to come in and win games at home, so just the love in general. I know on the football side, like our fans, they travel on the road, not even just a bowl game. Like if we got a game in West Virginia, we're going to be in West Virginia. You know what I mean? Like the fans here, they show love. It's always authentic. It's always genuine. And they're not afraid to speak up either. You know what I mean? That's the power of social media. And it's to me, I always look at it as constructive criticism. I don't ever see it as negative impact. That's the world that we live in. If our fans feel a certain type of way, they should be able to speak up on it. And it's our jobs as student athletes, and now as professionals, really, to embrace that and to respond from it. So it's just the love here in Kansas, man. It's always been authentic. It's always been genuine. And that's part of the reason why I'm back here today at 36 years old, and I don't see myself leaving again.
No, I love the word authenticity. I think that's probably the biggest thing that I hang on to, because Kansas State and the Kansas State community, like our fans bleed purple, and the fans of Kansas State like actually have ties to Kansas State. Like they went to Kansas State, they have uncles, grandmothers, that went to Kansas State, right? Like, so the people that love K-State actually have true ties. I'm not going to talk about a school up the way that there's not a lot of true ties, right? That people just support just because. But like Kansas State, people genuinely love the school and the community, and like they want Kansas State to do really well, right? And I'm sitting at Christmas Eve at PF Chang's, and I get this on a weekly basis. He's going to see this a lot now that he's back here in town, right? But like I'm sitting at PF Chang's with my family, and a lady comes up and she goes, "Hey, go Cats! I was at Kansas State when you were there," right? Like like, just because like just the genuine love for the student athletes, for the family is there, and that's what's special about it is, it's not just, oh, we just like Kansas State just because it's Kansas State. Like, no, actually, we have true ties here, and we love it. We love the school. We went there. We have uncles, grandmas, aunts, grandpas, cousins. Our kids are going to go there. Like, there's true ties to it, and so it means something, right? Like, it really means something deeper than just we like the school. Like, no, it means something, and so that's pretty cool. And like the authenticity, I think, is there, and it's real genuine between the family, the fan base, and everyone that went there.
I'm going out to Arizona, and I wouldn't be doing that, right? I wouldn't be, Fitz wouldn't be spending all the money on flights and hotels for all these games we go to if there's no engagement. This show wouldn't be a thing. And, Derek and his gang do a great job. Our competition over at KSO and, Kellis with the Star, the newspaper, right? People want to hear about it. People want to read about it. People want to listen to it. And so that's why we're here. You get a pretty good perspective of other teams in the Big 12 and not only how they travel here, but, when you go out there and see how many or how few, media members there are covering, it gives you a sense of the pride that, K-State faithful has, for their university that they did graduate from. But let's wrap it up with this, guys. Can we win on Saturday? I'm yet to drop my prediction that'll go up on GoPowercat before the game. What do you guys think?
Well, first off, so I didn't talk to Fitz because I'm trying to go out to Arizona as well, man. What's up?
Hey, you can sit on my lap on the plane, or you can be my carry-on on the plane. We can make it work, okay? We can make it work. Fitz has status with Hilton, so for him to get an upgrade for an extra bed or even a suite, that'd be no problem.
Hey,
we can make it work.
Do it. So can we win on Saturday? Yes, we can win. Will we? I think it's going to come down to, we're going to have to defend. I think we'll be able to score the basketball. When you look at BYU, they obviously lost. They only lost it to UConn, a very close game to UConn. But other than that game, I was kind of looking at this beforehand. Other than that game, all the high major teams that they played, they didn't blow anyone else. They didn't blow anyone out, right? Like Miami, they beat Miami by 5. They beat Miami by 10. They beat Dayton by 4. They beat Clemson by 3.
Had a big comeback in that game just to win it.
Villanova beat them by 5. The only huge big win was Wisconsin. They beat by like 28, right? And so they've had a lot of close games. Now they're figuring out ways to win those games other than the UConn game. But that tells you that hey, it's not like a Michigan situation. Michigan's been blowing out top teams, right? You're like, wow, this is pretty crazy. But we're gonna have to play our best basketball. The 40 minutes J.O. mentioned is gonna have to be on point. 40 minutes defensively. We're gonna have to make some shots. Like we can't go through stretches where hey, we played really well and now we can't score the ball for 5 or 6 minutes and we can't get stops for 5 or 6 minutes and they go on a 10-0, 15-0 run. And you'd hope with us being at home that won't happen. But can we win? Yes. Will we win? I think it's going to come down to us getting those stops on defense and then not going through long stretches, having trouble scoring the basketball.
I believe that we can win. But like Clent said, it's got to be 40 minutes. Can't make a lot of mistakes. If they go on a run, and coach calls a timeout, coming out and changing that perception of the game, based on that run that was put in, by BYU, we got to be able to hit back, punch those guys back. It's a long game, but at the same time, can't make a lot of mistakes. Can't turn the ball over, which I don't think we do a lot. But we're gonna have to beat them on the glass. And the best player in college basketball is arguably that young man that's coming in on Saturday. So what can we do to limit him from getting to his spots to score? For him, he's kind of going to have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, being recruited by K-State, him considering us, I think we're going to have to feed off of our crowd's energy. So it's going to be big for our fans to be there to support us. When that crowd is packed out in purple, I don't know if there's a theme going on for the game or not. Whatever we're wearing, our fans are wearing, our guys between those lines got to match our fans' energy because we're going to be there to support. But we got to do it for 40 minutes. And we can beat BYU to get this train rolling the right direction, for sure.
The answer is yes. I mean, Jerome Tang, say what you want about Jerome Tang. Whoever's listening, if you don't like Tang, he means it when he says Kansas State can beat anybody. Kansas State can lose to anybody in the Big 12, but this team is capable of beating the best of the best, given that offensive upside. So the answer is absolutely yes. Kansas State can win this game. It's going to come down to the execution, shot making. You know, you mentioned it, guys. Those little plays, those add up here in the Big 12. J.O., my man, I appreciate you hopping on. You're in KC now, so I'm sure I'm going to run into you at a restaurant or something and tell you how much I love you.
Yes, sir. No, man, appreciate you guys having me on, and hope this ain't the last one either. And
Clent, I'm afraid somebody might be coming for your job at ESPN Plus. I mean, J.O. did a hell of a job.
Hey, he's already there. Yeah, he's already there. No, we're going to have him back on, especially as we get closer to TBT and things, and talk more about that leading into the summer. So I appreciate you, J.O., man, hopping over at my crib.
Yes,
came
sir.
on over to get this going. So, but it's good. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the live, and like I said, we'll have more players on live as well.
Yes, J.O. was a great opening act here for the guests we're going to have here coming up soon on the Clent Stewart Show. Kansas State comes up on Saturday, hosting BYU, looking to go 1-0 to open up conference play. After that game, not sure when exactly we'll do it, but me and Clent and maybe another guest will be back here on the Clent Stewart Show.
Thank you for watching the Clent Stewart Show, your Kansas State basketball podcast. Make sure you're subscribing to GoPowercat.com. This has been a GoPowercat and Spirit Street production.